Well, so I'm in reflecting on the last 3 years since I've been here. I'm looking back at the time when I first arrived here, and I arrived by myself, and then my family came later. But and then I'm now here, and they've left. So it's like my family's been in the middle, and I've experienced both my family life, if you like, and life as an individual person. And so it's a bit different in those both circumstances, because people respond when you have children in a different way than when you do. If you're out somewhere, the children are a natural, attractive, they are a lubricant into social relations with other people. People like children, and children are sort of innocent, if you like, a bit. And so it was very different to doing both things. But maybe you're asking, what do I think about how is living in Germany different to living in Australia or anywhere else? Maybe that's a good question. Or what are the characteristics that have struck me, that I've noticed about living here? And I could say some things about that. The first thing that really surprised me in a way when I first came to work here was that people are very gentle. I found German people in general to be very gentle, a bit self-protective, you would say, a little bit, slow to warm to you. So Australians are the opposite, and they're like the Spanish a bit. Not quite as bad as, or not quite the same as the Spanish, not as overt as the Spanish, but Australians are very relaxed about, they would say, "G'day, mate," to someone, and they never met before. Whereas a German would say, "Well, he's not my mate. I don't know him." So they'd say, "Guten Tag." So there's that sort of formality about people here, socially quite formal, I think, and so in the supermarket, for example, you would have someone, no matter what their age, if you were at the counter when you were looking at something, people would wait until you've done what you've done. In Australia, or in other parts of the world, in France as well, people are more likely to say, sort of like encourage you to move on a little bit because they want to get there. But people here are a bit more reserved about that, and I like that a lot. There's a sort of respect. You get it on the road mostly too. I mean, I ride a bicycle here, and look, to ride a bicycle in Ellingen is so easy compared to riding it other places in the world. I mean, in Canberra, you take your life in your hand when you ride a bicycle. People are incredibly aggressive and basically don't think that you should be on the road. It's like, get off the road. I pay my road taxes, you don't, get off. Here, and people drive in a different way as a result of that, I think. They're much more polite in their driving. I had to learn not to make too many hand gestures, because that's apparently considered very, very offensive. But at home we would make hand gestures all the time. I think another thing that I've noticed here is that I don't know if gentle is the right word. It's not quite the right word, but reserved. I think reserved is a better word more than gentle. If you expect it to be more overt, then it's not. You can be surprised. So you have to become sensitive to that sensitivity. Otherwise, you don't get anywhere with people. You can't. They just dismiss you as being uncouth or uncivilized. So learning that level of sensitivity, I think, is a big thing. And part of that is, my experience is that the Germans that I'm dealing with tend to be a bit more anxious when they don't know what's happening. In Australia, we go, some idiot's done something, and the fire brigade's going to arrive, and it'll be right. There's no point in going in. It's clearly a bug in the system. But like we had a fire thing today, some alarm went off, everyone left the building. And they did it in a very orderly way, no one was panicked. But they all left. By the time I was leaving the building, there was not anybody sitting down. So I suppose you'd call that, in a way, a respect for authority. There is, I think, more of a respect for authority. At home, no authority is to be challenged. And you consider it your right to challenge the authority. Whereas here, people are a bit, they do what they're told a little bit more. That's been a bit unusual. The problem is that they expect me to do what I'm told. And that's quite foreign. So, not to challenge, authority is not challenged very much, I think. But what I have learned is that if there is a problem, then you can explain it to people and then it's okay. It's the lack of understanding what's going on. So, for example, here's a really simple example. When you're on a train, if there's a delay, the announcer tells you there's a delay and why there's a delay. Most of the world wouldn't do that. They'd just stop, and everyone would go, "Oh, there's a delay." So I'm trying to think about that. I found part of that process, I think, or related to that process, is the sense that there is a right way to do things, and you should do it that way. And if you challenge the way we tell you is the right way to do things, especially in official situations, it's not looked on very kindly. And some people will insist. So one of the things that I found is that if I'm in an official situation, the best thing to do is to do what everyone else does first. And it's almost like if you can show that you can do that, then it relaxes a little bit and it's okay. You can sort of do it. But if you try and challenge the system right at the beginning, you will find people who come up against you, and then the system will close down around you, I think. But the big thing for me has been about understanding the gentleness, actually. Maybe that comes about, the hardest aspect of that for me is I find my natural reaction in a difficult situation is to become ironic. And where I come from, irony is a way of you can make it clear what it is the problem is, or what the situation is, in an ironic way, which without saying it directly. And here, sometimes, if you say it like that, people don't understand it, and so you miss the point completely. And for me, the hard thing is to say to people directly, I think you've made a mistake, that, right? Which is, and coming back the other way, it's a bit sort of, right, well, that wasn't very subtle, you could have told me in a more subtle way. But people aren't offended by that, mostly. When I first started to work here, my supervisor said, "You got some criticism, you need to tell me. You can tell me, I'm happy for you to tell me, but tell me directly." It's a very foreign idea for me. It's like you put your guard down. It's difficult. Part of the issue to do with this is a way to do things. This is the way we've always done it. Then there's an assumption that if that is the case, then it's the most efficient way to do it. So I've been known to say, while I've been here, that there seems to me often a confusion between efficient and officious. This word officious in English means the official way of doing it. If you can to be officious means to rely too much on officialdom, too much on respect for the person or the idea, because it's always been done that way. And I think to be critical of that process, one would say that sometimes there is a confusion. Because it's always been done like this, it is the most efficient way to do it, and that's not the case. So we rub up against that sometimes. I think I've become more tolerant. I think, well, I think that I think here there's a respect for position, which there isn't in many places, including at home. So people are more likely to be, I wouldn't say tolerant of you, they're more, if you hold a standing, if you have a position, a social position, doctor, professor, or whatever it is, then people see that and they respect that in a way that they wouldn't necessarily somewhere else. And so let me try and put it in a more pragmatic sense and say, I think people respect education here and don't necessarily look down on education. If you're an educated person, mostly it's seen as being a positive thing. And people are more likely to listen to you, I think. And that's been a rewarding thing. I think so my professional life, my expertise, my standing, if you like, in the world has been acknowledged here, and that gives you a confidence, I think. The culture, the German culture in general, the language, is very focused on sound, and this is a delight for someone whose life happens, first of all, primarily through the ears. So many distinctions about words to do with sound, and auf Wiederhören. You never have that. I'll hear you later, right? It's like be talking to you later. In Australia, in most of the English world, you wouldn't say that. You would say, see you later. Put the phone down, see you later. So that's a nice thing for me because I'm so focused on that dimension of life, the hearing world, to be in a culture which respects hearing. Well, I think the major thing that I've managed to achieve while I'm here is just to be able to focus on doing the work. In other words, by extracting myself from the normal environment in which the day-to-day thrust of everything happens with family all around you and university jumping up and down and deadlines and all that stuff, to be able to spend the time and focus on the work was the most pleasing aspect. In other words, to really concentrate and say, okay, well, it has to happen now, and to have that sort of space, that mental space, really. Even though, as you know, it's taken a lot of time and it's been very difficult. Still, I am doing that, and I'm doing that in a way that's acknowledged, and so that for me has been the most benefit. It's like I'm taken seriously, and that means that I have to respond in a serious way, and that means I have to focus, and there's no excuses. You've got to do it, and so that strengthens you. I think I feel like I've been strengthened by this time here, because I've had the space to be able to work.